We still got time until the bell. Let's put some of this to the side, dive into earnings in the energy space, not the old one, and not the solar stuff that got some support from the government this week. Lightbridge and nuclear doing it on its own without so much help from DC, at least not this week. We'll be right back with the CEO. Excited to catch up with Seth Grae next. Shares of nuclear fuel business Lightbridge are up 9% today, rallying after earnings this week and closing the gap from this year's performance to now just a 4% decline, well ahead of the broad market. Let's bring in the CEO. Rejoining us, Seth Grae is the president at Lightbridge Corp, joining us from the NASDAQ. Seth, thanks for being here.
Great to be with you, Oliver.
Okay, let's first talk about the fundamentals. The earnings, you guys reported numbers. Stock has been going up since. The earnings loss is narrowing from the year prior, and it seems like what you're talking about for the future has got people excited.
Yeah, I think so. What we're seeing is a tremendous focus on energy security around the world. And as we're trying to get our closest allies off relying on Russia's fossil fuels, looking at non-fossil ways of generating energy is becoming more important. Lightbridge has been getting some support from the U.S. Department of Energy, and this week the bill that Joe Manchin is supporting has tremendous new support for nuclear energy, some of which will very specifically help Lightbridge in enriching uranium to the levels that we'll use in our fuel that will allow reactors to produce more power, run longer between refuelings, and add a lot of safety benefits.
Okay, so when we're hearing all about the solar stuff, which has been the highlight, and the implications there, where does the nuclear money go, and where do you see that as part of this effort to disconnect from the fossil fuels?
Yeah, nuclear and solar have not paired well in the past because it takes so long for reactors to go up and down in power that you really need something like natural gas that could flip on, flip off very quickly as the sun shines, or in the case of wind, as the wind blows. But one of the great benefits of Lightbridge fuel will be allow the reactors to go up and down in power much more quickly, pair with renewables on a zero carbon electric grid.
Interesting. And I also saw that there's language in the bill that would also create new efforts to manage nuclear waste as part of this. What's the stuff that hits you guys directly? Is this something that you'll have to apply for, or how close are you to getting written in here, basically, to getting some of that money?
Right. The main benefit in this bill is that it has $700 million to support production demonstration of high assay low enriched uranium, which means uranium enriched almost 20%, which is what Lightbridge needs. That's a tremendous boost from the government that Lightbridge can use, companies designing advanced reactors could use, and it really makes our timeframes much more realistic. Unlike the new advanced reactors being designed, our fuel can also be used in the existing reactors, and the bill includes production tax credits for the existing reactors to keep them from closing, which will keep our market share up.
Okay, so just to remind folks, and absolutely correct any misses on wording or inaccuracies here, you're still testing your fuel. That is, the goal is to put it into new reactors, but also the existing nuclear plants as a more efficient way, a more low-cost way, and I believe low waste as well, potentially. And this new bill then would allow you to acquire parts or materials you need to make that happen at a cheaper rate. Is that correct?
Yeah, it includes that, includes a lot of support for us, and we expect to announce soon a contract for a growing strategic relationship between Lightbridge and the U.S. government to produce our nuclear fuel samples at Idaho National Laboratory and test it in their research reactor there. And this will be a very significant milestone for the company. And the government will provide us with that enriched uranium for those tests, as well as the use of the reactor.
Wow. One of the things we're looking at on your earnings right now compared to a year ago, maybe it's just a one-time thing, but I see the R&D costs actually quite a bit lower from a year ago. I guess I'm surprised to see that since the business is research right now. Can you walk me through what happened there and what your expenses look like going forward?
Right. What we had was a lot of it was actually paid for by the Department of Energy. There's something called the Gateway for Accelerated Innovation in Nuclear GAIN program at DOE. So we had one GAIN voucher from DOE to do our work at Idaho National Laboratory, and another one for work that's being done now at Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. So we relied a little more on government money, non-dilutive to our shareholders. We expect to get more, and we were very happy to just announce very recently that DOE has given an $800,000 grant to MIT to study the use of advanced nuclear fuels in small modular reactors. And part of that will be spent on evaluating specifically Lightbridge's fuel for NuScale's small modular reactor.
Wow. So the small modular reactors, I know that that's a very exciting part of the nuclear future that you see that has a good energy capabilities with less intensive requirements, maintenance. The other part of that kind of futuristic nuclear future we hear about sometimes is thorium. What's the stats with that? Is that included in any of these latest developments for funding?
It's not included in the latest developments. I know Senator Tupperville is supporting more research into thorium fuel. The current fuels that Lightbridge is developing and testing don't have thorium, but we've also developed thorium fuels, and we have patents on them, and we did some testing on them in the past. And if need be, if their government wants that, we can also go to variants of our fuel with thorium in them.
Okay, very cool. Hey, this is probably an impossible task, Seth, but is there any way to adjust and tweak your timeline? How much does this fast forward the timeline by the developments of the last week?
Well, I think it's making our timeline a lot more realistic to be in commercial reactors this decade.
Okay.
And we're able to sign these contracts with the government and get the fuel in their reactor on our near-term timeframes. I think this new bill makes it very realistic.
All right, very cool stuff. Always appreciate the update. Always fun to talk some nukes. Thanks, Seth.
Thank you, Oliver.
You got it, Seth Grae, President and CEO at Lightbridge Corp. LTBR, up big on the day.